Welcome, everybody, to the Defining Time show on Fifth Wrist Radio. Fifth Wrist is all about brutally honest watch reviews for the community, and it's been set up by enthusiasts and for enthusiasts. So please like and subscribe to the podcast because it all helps. Head over to follow Fifth Wrist on Instagram, and you can even jump on the website and review one of your watches so that one of the other community members can see what you've got to say about your watch or your collection. So my name's Anthony, and today I'm joined by a special guest, and some of you may have seen his YouTube channel, Swiss Watch Gang, but welcome to the show, Marko. How are you?
Hey, Anthony, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. This is my first podcast, so popping the cherry
Very
here.
good. That's good. That's good. It's the podcasts are a lot of fun. We started, 6-7 months ago, and I think we're at something like 65 or nearly 70 episodes because we just absolutely love it, and we're speaking to wonderful people all over the world. So it's cool.
Awesome. Congratulations. It's a big
Yeah,
number. Huh?
thank you. All right, we'll do some wrist checks, and then we'll get into the conversation. And today it's really about talking about your journey and what it is to be a YouTube or have a YouTube channel dedicated to watches. And we can go into some of the hard parts of it and what you love about it, and then just a bit about watches in general. So it should be a lot of fun.
Excellent. I'm ready.
Let's go. Let's start with what's on your wrist. So what are you wearing on your wrist today?
Today I'm actually wearing the Hublot Classic Fusion Lab Fusion, which was made by a Singapore Watch Club. It's the black ceramic rose gold details, linen dial, Chinese numerals. I've been wearing it for the last, I think, 1 month and a half.
Yeah.
Perfect watch, it doesn't scratch, so it's fun to wear, and it just reminds me of my travels to Asia, and it's about the watch community, like you said, in Singapore. I love traveling, and I love eating in Singapore as well, so it just reminds me daily of the life I can have when I travel to those places.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember watching the video when you posted that. When you first got it, I remember you were quite taken back for receiving that watch. And I'm really glad that you're wearing a Hublot because we, a couple of podcasts ago, we talked about Hublot and what was all the hate about from the community. And I
Yeah,
just can't see it. I don't understand. And obviously you're wearing one. So what do you
yeah.
think? Do you?
But listen, I think honestly, Hublot is one of the companies who innovate a lot, and also they brought down the prices of some of the expensive materials. Like you can get, I think, a chronograph in-house movement full sapphire watch for like 50 something thousand Swiss francs. Before that wasn't possible. They always try to innovate with materials, they try to collaborate, and I think it just the hate culture, I think, is also combined with the, let's say, not to insult anybody, but like a sheep mentality, so I hate on Hublot, so you should too, and I'm gonna hate too. But honestly, this is not my last Hublot. I'm looking at a few more to buy as well because they're awesome,
Yeah.
huh? For me. Yeah.
Same. I'm the same. And you go when you're on a commute next time or train or driving somewhere, listen to the podcast we did. H is for Hublot, and it's very similar. It just I was listing off all the positive or all the specifications of the Mecha 10, and
Yes. Oh,
then
amazing
you see
movement.
the price, and it's unbelievable value
Yep.
for that price.
Yep. I shot a lot of Hublots in my life now because I work also with a retailer. So they carry Hublot, and always when I shoot like the mecha pieces, or once I shot the sapphire case chronograph tourbillon where the bridges are also in sapphire. I mean, it looks insane, man. Like, I never
Wow.
seen this before, you know.
I'll have to Google it.
Yeah, I'll send you photos
Um,
later.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. And I'm wearing my Habring TZ21, the Deadbeat Seconds sector dial, and I've got it on a khaki NATO strap.
Wow, great
Which,
watch, great watch.
yeah, I do love this watch. It's
I love Habring. I think they're doing a great job. Very diverse. You can also customize it. I mean, it's fun. It's fun.
and they just brought out a new 38.5 mil Foudroyant jumping seconds, which is pretty
Mm.
cool. So,
Oof.
All right, well, let's get into this conversation because I've been a big fan of your channel for quite a while, and in particular, I love the collection reviews with the collectors and enthusiasts that you do. But not only that, the quality of your reviews is outstanding, and you can really hear your passion come through the channel, which is what I love the most. Um,
Thank you,
so
appreciate it.
well done on what you've done so far. But let's have a chat about it. So, where did it all begin for you in watches?
So actually, the YouTube channel is 1 year old. It's gonna be 1 year old in 12th of August. So before YouTube, I actually had the beginning was a Facebook account called San Marko. That was in 2015, I think. And then I transitioned to Swiss Watch King roughly 1.5 years later, with showcasing independence on my Facebook and Instagram account. And YouTube was always in the back of my head. You know, I'm a let's say a younger guy. I was born in '91, so my my medium that I consume is video. So I always wanted to make a YouTube channel, but I waited until I have the resources and the equipment to make qualitative videos. You know, because my Instagram account photos are on a high level, if I can say so myself, and I wanted to match my videos with the photos, which is more difficult. Um, and it takes a lot of time to create. So now that I have the resources to devote capital to YouTube, just to create the videos on a weekly basis, and also I take the time for it. It's more fun, and also the quality is keeping up with the photos I make.
Yeah.
And
But how did you get into watches? How did it all start for you? Because I know I have watched the little 2 minute video you've got on your about page on YouTube.
yes, yeah.
But tell our listeners how you got into watches in the first place many years ago.
I mean, maybe it's like a stereotypical story. My In 2010, I went to my grandmother and I just asked her like if she has like watches, you know, because I always was a fan of, you know, grandparents or parents passing on their watches to their, you know, next generation. So I asked them like, do you have any watches? And they were like from the, you know, they're older, you know. So I was surprised when she showed me a watch. I don't know the name anymore. And then she showed me the movement side of it. You know, we opened the movement with like a knife, and I was intrigued a lot by the movement of it, not by the dial or the case, but more of the mechanical side of it. That's why I also feature mechanical innovation on my pages. You know, and I try to show people mechanics which they might not see, you know, on other channels. And since then I just started like consuming, you know, like I say in the video, basically newspapers, Instagram accounts, websites. I was more intrigued by independence from the beginning. Independence plus, let's say, Vacheron Constantin, Breguet, and that's basically it. You know, I didn't come to watches through Omega, Rolex, or, you know, maybe Patek. I was never a big fan of those at the beginning. I do acknowledge them that are good brands, good watches, quality stuff, but I'm a more emotional collector. So the watch really has to speak to me on, let's say, an emotion level more than a reasonable level. Um, and then I just started consuming, you know, knowledge, and I wanted to become a watchmaker. I dropped out of university after 6 months in Slovenia because I'm originally from Slovenia, and found a school in Neuchâtel, and then I moved to Switzerland to pursue this, or let's say, watchmaking career, which I soon stopped because I'm not patient enough to assemble watches. Like a few weeks ago, I actually had to photograph a few movements for a brand, and I had to unscrew screws from this plastic holder, you know, to put the movements out of it. I think I spent like 1 hour to unscrew like 15 little screws. So I'm not the guy for that for sure. But it fueled my passion for watches, and then I was searching for a way how to get into watches full time. And basically, I started to create content and go to Basel World Network, and finally a retailer in Zurich, where I live now since 2011. approached me, and we made a deal to, like, run their social media account. And since then, I'm independent, basically full time, and I can devote my
Wow.
time to my passion, which is it's a dream come true, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, for those, I mean, you have a very large following on Instagram. And for people that know the account, the photos are just spectacular. Like it's so colorful and bright, and the watches that you have on there are just so different to a lot of other accounts that we see. So I think obviously the watches that you review and have a look at are really a lot of them are quite high end independents,
Yes.
which is really cool. But if we talk about the videos, how much planning has to go into making the videos, and how hard are they to do?
Well, the videos are very difficult to plan. With independence, it's maybe a bit easier than going to a big brand because there's less bureaucracy and people involved. So, because I started with independence, I have a lot of contacts and I know most, like almost all of them in person. So I can just write to somebody, hey, XYZ, can you send me this watch for a week or whatever, and we'll, give it back to you. Or if you want to make a sponsored video or whatever, because also my accounts are all self-funded. Um, and I don't come from a rich family who just, gave me millions. So I'm a let's say self-made entrepreneur, which and with other businesses that I have, I fund Swiss Watch King until it will be, self-sustainable at one point. And so it's easier to get independence, but also you have to build the trust throughout the years, and they have to see the quality that you produce to basically, give you these watches. But more than half of the watches on my channel are actually from also my friends, from in Zurich, or a lot of the watches I reviewed were actually from Amr, the horophile. He was kind enough to give me a lot of his watches. The Akrivia and the Patek 5711, those are from France. The Ulysse Freak and the HYT, also Friends watches. A lot of them are also my watches, like the ones at the beginning. The Joker, the Jacob and Co., the Bulgari, the Tudor, um, the Hublot, of course. So I think, and I have another one coming in 2 weeks, which is my latest acquisition. That's gonna be, I never showed it before, so it's gonna be a new one.
Yeah, cool.
So it's a diverse, but regarding planning, it takes a lot of planning, man. Like I, a lot of pre-production, getting the watches physically to me. Sometimes I go somewhere and get it myself. Then we try to film videos in advance. So the last session I had, I actually filmed around 8 videos in 1 week, and then we just basically edit them because I don't want to come to the situation where I don't have a video that week. And because, like you say, that the quality is more on the higher end, in terms of the color, the sharpness, and the different angles and the camera work, it takes a lot of time to produce the videos actually and finalize them.
I think we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and you mentioned to me that transparency, obviously, a lot of with sponsored content and getting sent watches and things like that. You mentioned that transparency was important to you. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah. So for me, like, there's for Swiss Watchkin, the goal is basically to be a added value to a brand. Okay. So I want the brands to feel comfortable when they do a video or photo with me, and that actually it adds to their, image, not the other way around. And I think transparency is very important because, if you see high quality videos and images, at one point the viewer will ask, okay, but how is this all funded? I mean, you're not selling merch, you're not selling, watches, you're not selling anything. Like, how or who funds these things? So I think being transparent in this day and age is also important because people are not stupid and they can search or they can figure out how you make money, maybe. And also, if you see so many Instagram accounts and YouTube accounts pushing watches and brands and nobody mentions it being like a sponsored video or something, you start to question, like, okay, like, nobody's paying any of those guys anything to do the videos. It's a bit weird. And also I want to do like, I'm building my website now, and also I'm gonna have a page where with my partners. And when I list them on that page, people will start asking questions. Okay, I see you have partners, but you never mentioned them. So one day it can catch up to you and basically bite you in the ass if you're not transparent. And also, simply stated, it's also by law you have to say it's an advertisement. I have a lot of also German friends in the Instagram and YouTube community, and in Germany they're very strict. So basically, if you talk positively about a brand, you have to state that it's an ad, even if it isn't. um, and like I said, I want
Wow.
people to be transparent, and people sometimes tell me, hey, but you don't talk bad about this watch or this feature, or the case is big and you say it's comfortable for you. And I'm like, yes, like, I don't want my preferences sometimes to make somebody not buy a watch. You know what I mean? Like, if my Jacob and Co, which is big and thick, fits my wrist because I have an 18.1 inch like centimeter wrist, it's on the higher side maybe. Like, I don't want somebody who has a smaller wrist to not buy the watch just because of the size, or whatever I say. So I think it's I don't want to be the guy basically bashing on the brands. It has also to do with my personality. I'm more of a happy guy and positive and all that stuff.
Yeah, which is
Which
good.
is,
Which
yeah.
is good. And I think the transparency is such a huge thing, and we're starting to the community as a whole is starting to see um, where some media channels and things it's starting to get out of control, and the hate, and it's starting to bite people in the bum. So I think it's so
Yes.
important to do it from the start, get it right. And I think you make a really good point that I hadn't really thought about, and that's about just because you don't say something about a watch, it is your preference. And I think that's one of the hardest things is you don't want to tell someone not to go buy a watch because it might be too big for them. They need to go
Yes,
see themselves. Have a
exactly.
look.
Like,
Mm.
there's a review coming on Tuesday where I'm gonna review a watch which is fully in gold and heavy. And I say it's on the heavier side and also a big watch. So you gotta, as a user yourself, maybe measure your wrist and think about, do I want to watch this big? And also, like, regarding transparency, um, what I wanted to say, it's actually, in my opinion, as a, let's say, YouTube creator or a Instagram creator, it's better for the brand to be transparent with you, because if you watch a video, okay, let's say, and there is no mentioning of any ad or transparency or whatever, there is, I think, less of a call to action. But if you say, hey guys, this video is sponsored by blah blah blah, you actually are searching for a call to action throughout the whole video. Maybe it's a YouTube, maybe it's a link in the description, maybe it's whatever. So I think for a brand saying it's a sponsored video, it's better because more people will click on that link, and we've seen these results happening. So I think it's even better to say it's sponsored than not. But depends on the channel, I think, as well.
It does, and it depends if people are trying to hide things. And I think Tim Mosso is a good one, where it's not too often that he will say something bad about a watch, but we all know, and he says we are selling these watches. Email me if you want to buy them. So he's not going to sit there and bash the brand, or but he's still, hey, he's still. What I like about Tim Mosso is everyone knows his wrist size, and the fact that he'll tell you that it can be as a watch worn on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters,
Yeah, I
or
love those. Yeah,
if
you're
you're
right.
less than 15, this watch is not going to work for you.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's still being honest, and he's an absolute library of knowledge, which
Yes,
is cool.
he is. I love his reviews as well. It's very short, no, like, not really visually appealing, but you get all the information and more in those like 5-6 minutes. Like, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, which brands have been for you over time? Which brands have been the best to work with, or the most fun?
The most fun or the best? Like, it really
Well,
depends. Like,
whatever you want.
yeah, like, I like working with independents because you see watches that you would never dream of even existing. You know, But there's also mainstream brands like, maybe Vacheron, Rolex, or Omega are good for views, of course. So that's also, you get a lot of endorphins from that. You get like a little kick out of that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
um, what was Who was actually really good to work with is, if I can maybe plug the brand, I don't know. You can
Yeah,
cut it out
sure.
if you want. It's
No, no, no.
Army Strom are really
Yeah.
good guys in here in Biel in Switzerland. Really innovative young guys. We were together in Australia as well. I love their watches. The price point is good, so I think they have a bright future. The guys from Aventi Watch, which are also Australian, are very nice guys. Really kind as well. So that was so far the maybe the best ones. But also, like, I'm a people person, man. So if I don't like somebody, I'm not going to review their watches. Simple as that. Sometimes I love the product, but the people behind it are just idiots, and I'm like, I don't want you to profit out of this just because I like the watch. And sometimes I feel bad for the watches. You know what I mean? 'Cause like, sometimes I treat watches like people, and I'm like, listen, this watch, I feel bad for you because this guy owns you. So,
Oh, that is awesome.
so
Oh, that
it's
is so good.
but like independence. Urwerk is, was the beginning of my journey. It was the first watch after Baselworld that I had to, was able to get home and photograph, and so they're really good as well. And the founder lives in Martin Frey lives in Zurich. He was in our offices last week for a chat. So I mean, listen, I think independents are good because it's more personal. The
Yeah,
big
well,
brands
we're
are hard
hoping,
to reach.
yeah, hoping we can talk to Martin and maybe Felix at some time in the future, very
Yeah,
soon.
let me
We'll
know. I
see.
can connect you guys. No
Yeah,
problem.
that would be great. And one of the things I wanted to ask, because I go through your Instagram and I see so many watches, like there are hundreds and hundreds of watches. And for someone that, like myself, I live in a city in Adelaide, in Australia, sorry, called Adelaide. It's a small place. We basically don't have any boutiques here. I have to go to Melbourne, which I can't do at the moment. And, you know, I don't get to see a lot of watches all the time. So for me to get my kicks in watches, I've got to either go to events or I need to watch YouTube. But for you, you get to handle these things all the time. Does the appreciation, or do you ever get bored of playing with these fantastic objects over and over again?
I mean, so me seeing all these watches, also, like I said at the beginning, it's all self-funded. So I spend my money going to Basel, Geneva. I went to Dubai Watch Week as well, again on my own accord and money. I invest a lot of time and money also just to travel to all these watchmakers. I was, 1 week I did like a tour, so I went to see Vianney Halter and Debetune and all those guys like in 1 week, and Kari Voutilainen. So I think the amount of photos that you create, it often comes from these watch fairs and events. And also in time, I have like a big library of photography, which I can basically just, I could go 1 year just reposting my own stuff. Um, but if it gets boring, I mean, listen, this happened with maybe Jacob and Co watches. Like when I first saw the watches in person, the big Astronomia pieces. I was mind blown, dude. I was like, I saw the $1 million watch. I saw the billionaire watch, which was $18 million in person. I shot it. The first times, all these watches are like, oh, holy shit! You are, enthusiastic, and I mean, it's incredible that you see it. In time, it just becomes also a bit of a job. So sometimes it doesn't matter if I photograph a $5 watch or a 500,000, Grebel Forsey. I want to get the job done as best as I can. What you do get is very picky because so if before you wanted to buy this and that watch, in time things change and you really carve out your taste and maybe which watch you want to buy in the future. Also because you see so many movements, you see, okay, I like this watch, but now I also know that these other four brands use the same movement, and that's something I'm not a biggest fan of. For example, um, depends on the price point. But it gets a bit, yeah, it gets a bit boring sometimes, maybe because you handle watches, on a daily level. Um, but also, like I said, the most important thing is you get very picky and you choose your heroes. Basically, you're like, okay, I love this brand, although I saw it 1,000 times already. And some of them you just get bored of and say, okay, yeah, it's a cool watch. I saw this watch 5 years ago. Now you made a new model, quote unquote, with a blue dial, whatever. And it's a novelty, and I'm like, yeah, like cool story.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think with a lot of things in life, when you're doing things over and over again, it can become work. And I suppose that because I don't have any experience in videoing, but even just doing these podcast edits, they still take time, and you do just want to get it done. And it doesn't mean it's not fun or that you're not enjoying yourself, but sometimes that it can become work, and you just sort of push through and get it done. And yeah, you could imagine that that would be the case with the watches as well.
Absolutely. It happens to me as well with the YouTube videos. Like you say, we shoot a video and we have the audio, and then from a 1 hour audio, I sometimes have to cut it down to 8 minutes, for example, right? And that's more of a, let's say, tedious process. But then I also have to film the watch. So filming the watches takes sometimes 2 3 hours, maybe four, depends on the watch. um, and I would lie to you if I would say that's fun, because again, you have a life and job and everything else, so you just want to basically optimize all of that. What is fun is the collectors interviews. That's more of a, because I like to talk, and just maybe like interview as well. And it's more a relaxed, space and video topic. um so like you say, you love it, but there's also things in every job, even if it's your passion, some things that you just have to do just so they're basically done.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. And I think we often talk on the podcast about tastes changing and developing over time, and what you used to like, sometimes you don't like them into the future for whatever reason. Not because you don't like the watch, but just because your level of enthusiasm changes and so forth. So for you now, what watches do you what not so much like the most, but for you to buy a watch now, what are some of the prerequisites that has to be there for you?
For me, like I said, because I handled so many watches, I have my maybe five brands, which I like almost always go on Chrono 24 and I just search for the lowest prices.
Yeah.
Okay, because maybe that's let's maybe mention those, because I think at the end of the day, the watches you search for are the watches you essentially want to have, right? Um, I don't wear like classical watches. So, and also because my job is as an entrepreneur, I can wear, mostly to my job, I wear like black jeans and maybe like a artsy hoodie, because I also like art, like contemporary art pieces, like a cause and so Hebrew Brantley and stuff like that. So I have a lot of those clothes. So my watches are very diverse and not really classic. I also have to. I don't have to downplay if I go to a meeting with somebody, because often it's a watchmaker and they would love to see a complicated watch. So the brands I gravitate to mostly, and let's say search for, are Urwerk. So I want to get one of those in the future still. Maybe like a 110. That's one. The 110 is maybe my favorite, or just a simple 103, like white gold, just like a classical piece. I like Debetun watches, so I would like to have a DB28. It can be the most basic model. I don't care, as long as it has an open case back and you see all the nice components, and it has to have big lugs, not the small floating lugs. Um, MBNF I like a lot, so I would have an HM3. I would like to have a legacy machine. What I also search for is that's the watch I wanted to buy next year, but then Corona came this year, and I think my finances will be have to devote it more to my businesses. I was saving up for a 1815 Lange chronograph. Um, So this is movement wise my favorite watch at the moment. If I could, and again, that's a Frankenstein watch, maybe, but that's my idea. I would take the 1955 Vacheron Constantin Corne de Vache case and dial and put it in a 1850 Lange movement. So that would be maybe my dream watch. Okay, uh,
Wow.
because I
Makes sense
love,
though. It makes
yeah,
sense. It makes
yeah.
sense.
I love teardrop cow horns, however you want to call them, lugs. I'm a
Yeah.
lug guy, so I
Yeah,
love
same.
crazy lugs.
Yeah, I'm absolutely a lug guy as well. I need strong lugs, and that's why even my 36 mil Rolex Explorer that I have that I've had for a couple of years now, the proportions to the dial size or the case size to the lugs is just so perfect, and they sit up so strong. And even though it's a 36 mil watch, it has lugs, and that's I absolutely love that about
Yeah,
it.
but the Explorer is also like a very diverse watch, man. That's like you can dress it up, dress it down. I don't have a Rolex yet. I used to own one, but that was a bit of on the crazy side, maybe. I had a date just two tone 36 millimeter vintage with a blue dial in the middle, and then it gradiented into black, like a fume dial with diamond indexes. So if I would get a Rolex, it would probably be like a crazy one.
Nah,
Um,
Rolex are good. Like they make fantastic watches. I
absolutely.
think, and I think long after things will change, things will
Hmm.
change again, and that they'll the community will do a full circle and come back and yeah, there's still. I think I was saying the other day on the podcast that there's always someone out there who's just discovering Rolex for the first time right now
Oh, for sure.
and we know everything about them. Well, not everything. I don't claim to know everything about Rolex. I didn't mean to say that. We know a lot about them. We know the reference numbers. We know the way they come. But there's people out there who don't know anything, and they're just learning about them now. And in some ways, I feel sorry for them because they're the ones that come and say, "Yeah, I'm just going to go buy a Daytona. I really like it." And it's like, well, no, you're not. Unless you're going to pay a lot of more money over the top of the retail price, you're not getting one.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
you're right.
and it's sad. It really is sad because those watches need to be appreciated. But anyway, we can talk about Rolex another time. Um, so yeah, I think putting the Comte de Vache with the 1815 chronograph, the flyback
Imagine that.
movement would
Imagine
be
that.
yeah. Yeah,
Perfect.
that's some good thinking. Maybe we should
May-
do a podcast one day on watches where you'd put different movements, but the dials. That's a cool
oh,
idea.
that's awesome. That's a cool idea. Maybe I would maybe I would do on the Vacheron, I would do a blue dial in the middle with white sub dials and a white tachymeter track, just to make it a bit more fancy and unique.
Yeah. Well, why not? You said Fume dial, so I'm just going to stop here for a second. I got a question for you. Out of the Moser Pioneer Center Seconds, blue, green, or now Swiss Mad Red? Which one's your favorite?
Listen, my favorite color is blue, so it's gonna be a very boring answer. But I think they also do a great job with the green dials. The green they use is my favorite tone, so I think the green would be also a good choice. The red for me, it's a bit tacky for what I use my watches for. So I think the blue is a bit more diverse maybe and more normal. But again, it depends how many watches you have. Is it your only watch? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah,
have
it's so
a lot
true.
of if you have like a lot of watches, just buy the red one. So that's your weekend crazy red watch.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm planning to buy one. It's my next watch. It's what I want to. I'm saving for it now, and hopefully, in the next 6 to 12 months, I can get one. But now that they brought out the red dial, I really like the burgundy dial that they had on the perpetual calendar. and I kind of wish that they toned down the red and made it that burgundy color because it's just a little bit more subtle and a bit more classic and
Yeah,
classy.
it's also a
But
bit richer, I think.
yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna have a tough decision to make at some stage. I started moving towards the green because I really like that, and it's not going to be my only watch. I'm going to be wearing it for fun occasions and not every day. But anyway, we're off topic. We moved somewhere. We started talking about watches. So cool. I really want to hear some stories because I love listening to stories that people have about either getting a watch or and so maybe we can have a bit of a chat about the Hublot that you're wearing today because I know that story myself, but I think it's a great story to share on the podcast for the listeners to get into as well. So can you tell us how did that watch come about?
So I met Tom, the founder of Singapore Watch Club in Dubai. We've known each other on Instagram for a while, and you never see anybody's face on Instagram, right? Because the watch community is more of a like a little secret, and it's also a sensitive topic showing your face with expensive watches, right? In case you are robbed or whatever. So I spoke with him a lot, and then we met at Dubai Watch Week, and I just saw the watch on the wrist, and I'm like, "Are you Tom?" Because at the time I think he had a rose gold or yellow gold, I'm not sure, Vianney Halter Classic watch, huh? Great piece. So he said yes, and they were speaking to Philippe Dufour. It's the crazy world of watch fairs. You just go there and speak to Philippe Dufour about watchmaking. It's a dream come true, basically. We hit it off. We became friends ever since. And then I went to Singapore for my first time. I think it was just holidays, to be honest. And we met up. We went to a club, to bars, drink a bit, talk about watches, and we are friends like ever since. And I always liked what he did with the watches because I think the first edition was the Ulysse Nardin Classico with the black enamel dial, beautiful details, special numbers as well. And I just told him, listen, when you do a limited edition again, just let me know. We speak on a weekly basis, on WhatsApp, just about watches. What do we want to buy? What does he want to buy? We inspire each other also regarding, photography, and we ask each other questions, about watches, and again, photos. How do you do this? Whatever. So we grow together, basically, you know what I mean, professionally and as friends. So then he said, Marco, I'm going to do the next watch for the anniversary of the Singapore Watch Club, and it's going to be it was another brand at that time, which I don't want to mention, but basically the other brand was like a bigger brand, and they wanted to make a production model with the Singapore Watch Club on the back or something. And Tom's idea is always to create a watch that also makes the brand a bit uncomfortable, or out of the comfort zone. Like in terms of, hey, this brand never made this watch, okay? Because putting a name of the club on the watch for him is not the ideal situation. It's also a bit more boring, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
so the Hublot basically came about. I think the conversation we had was what now it's like 2 years ago. He said it's gonna be a Hublot. He showed me like a rendering or whatever. And I just asked for the price, and I said, listen. He said it's gonna be approximately this and that, and I'm like, okay, let's do it. I'm in. I like to support you. Just for information, he does not get commission on the watches in any way. So it's a fully passionate job. He designs the watch. He also pays for his watch, because some people might wonder, okay, he makes money with this. He doesn't. So also his philosophy is, if he would get a commission, he would rather give us a bigger discount than him taking money for himself, which is very noble of him. And basically during the whole 1.5 years, we saw maybe like a dial or update on the production. At the end, the price was pushed up for almost 3K because the Hublot never did a dial like this. It's a linen fume dial. And Hublot never did a classic fusion in black ceramic and rose gold. And they also never did a Chinese numeral dial, which again, pushing the comfort zone of the brand. So when we saw the final rendering, we just confirmed the price, and that was it. We waited for the production to be made. And he asked me if I want the watch to be delivered to me in Switzerland, because Hublot is basically 2 hours from
Yeah.
where I live. But I said no. I want to go to Singapore, meet the other Singapore Watch Club, members, because I'm part of the club basically, and also make like a video with you about your collection. Also, again, I love Singapore, so it was a no-brainer for me. Again, all self-funded by me. Not even I don't ask any brand to, hey, sponsor my trip or whatever. Because I'm a firm believer of you have to give in order to receive. The universe and the law of attraction. I'm a big fan of that. And alchemy and all that stuff. So I basically I met Tom and his girlfriend in Switzerland. They came to visit the factory of Hublot, and we saw the watch for the first time. And I helped them, do I did a few shots for myself, like a behind the scenes, which you can see on my Instagram as well, and like one of the highlights. Um, we went for like lunch, and that was it. And next time I flew to Singapore, I was happy and also very fortunate that the watch was already in Singapore, so I could pick it up in the same week. And that was it, man. Like it felt so great, and it's on a rubber strap, which for Singapore is perfect, and for summer as well. It doesn't sweat, and again, it's when I see this watch, I don't see the price, I don't see the brand, I see, friendship. I see, somebody devoting their time to creating this watch, because the philosophy of this watch is combining Hublot's expertise, which is fusion in materials, and Asian roots of the Singapore Watch Club, which is linen and the numerals. Um, so when I see this watch, I see travel, I see food, I see friendship, I see love for watches. I don't see the value or the materials, or I don't see me bragging about this watch, because most people which I show the watch, they think it's fake because they never saw this watch.
Yeah.
It's only 30 pieces ever made, and sold beforehand. Nobody
Yeah.
got a chance to even put a purchase order in. So I
And
love it,
when you
man.
think about it's an awesome story, and I love the fact that that watch makes you think of all those things and not the things that really most people think about, which is the value and what's the movement and this and that. So that's amazing, and I love the fact that Tom creates these watches that pushes the manufacturer out of their comfort zone. And to be completely honest, if you're ever going to push a manufacturer out of their comfort zone, Hublot is going to be someone that will come to the party, because they're already innovating, they're already doing things. And honestly, doing a Fume linen dial, that would have tested them. They would have had to do some stuff, but you try and go do that to other watch brands, they're not going to do it. Like you said, they're gonna engrave some Singapore Watch Club on the back, and here's your special edition. Off you go, and it's not the
Exactly.
same.
And
Not
also
the
the,
same.
the attention to detail. The numerals were actually made by a Singaporean calligrapher. So
Oh
he
wow.
he, he draw the numerals. You can see it in my review, and also if you go to the Singapore Watch Club site on Instagram. So he made like a big scale calligraphy, numbers, and then they scaled them down to fit on the dial. I mean, again, the attention to detail is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we met the guy at the event. He signed our I think like a document, because I have number 15 out of 30, because 15 is my birthday, and then he signed it in his calligraphy again. So it was a very personal touch.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is
Yeah,
awesome. All right, cool. I got a couple more questions I'd like to ask, and that one of them is, what is a watch that you still haven't got your hands on yet, but you'd love to do a review and video on?
oof. So that's hard, because I, I I I basically had the pleasure of holding just about anything. Um, Maybe what I want to do a review on, and again, it's more difficult for me to get because I'm in Switzerland, is a Credor Eichi 82 or maybe 81 would be awesome, but that's like a unicorn to find. Like I have friends that have them, but they're not in Switzerland, so it's hard. I don't want anybody to ship their watches to me and just for a review. If it's not a brand, I also want to have, but that's now a teaser maybe for the future. Um, we will have a Philippe Dufour on the channel, um, from a collector friend of mine. Again, that's a watch I want to just film basically, and it's again almost like a unicorn to find. But otherwise, I pretty much like I can get like a lot of them. So I think there's no watch I can have a problem of finding. Maybe like a Hajime Asaoka, I would like to have on the channel as well. And again, it's hard to get because my friend who has it lives in LA. But asking Hajime, can you send me a watch where he doesn't even have one is imagine that, impossible. Maybe a Roger Smith, that'll be awesome as well. But again, I will invest the time and go there to do that. So, but I'm more curious about collectors. I want to do more of those videos because I get the most kick out of them as well.
I think as well, even from a community perspective. So even from my perspective, I mean, I've loved some of the reviews you've done, especially on watches like the Angeles and things that you don't see all the time is what I've enjoyed watching. But listening to your chat with the Horror File and Michael from Sydney, it's just they're the things you sit back, you can grab a drink, put some YouTube on and watch these interviews, and you really see the passion from the collector, but also your passion come through as well, which is great.
Yeah, so that series is basically inspired by my favorite collector series, which is from Hodinky, Talking Watches. I'm not ashamed of giving credit where credit is due, but that was inspired by them. Also the quality and also the locations. Sometimes we get them for free. The horrify location I had to pay for. So it really depends on the interview. But and my reviews are inspired by the Watchfinder channel.
Oh
That's
yes, yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
I've been following him for the longest time, and again, I started with no knowledge, so I had to get my inspiration from somewhere. So I think other creators help, in the research
yeah,
as well.
definitely. I mean, the Watchfinder do some fantastic videos, and
Yes,
and
yeah,
same with talking watches. Like, there's not really a talking watches that I didn't enjoy.
no, same
They're
for
all
me.
fantastic. The only thing, if my only criticism of talking watches is they're too short.
Yes.
They're 10 minutes. Like, come on, man, give me an hour. Just sit there, talk. I will watch it. I promise.
Yes, that's why mine are way longer. And
Yes.
my video guys were like asking me, like, Marko, is somebody gonna watch a 45-minute video about you and Tom or Amr talking about watches? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's surprisingly yes.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. And sometimes, but even I don't want to admit this, but sometimes when I see a collector review that's like 7 minutes long, I sometimes don't watch it because I want to watch something. I want to sit back. I want to relax. I want to grab a drink. I want to watch 45 minutes
Yeah,
of a conversation because that's where you can't get the passion in 7 to 10
yes.
minutes. It just doesn't. It's not there.
So we have this problem now with my interviews. So we try to limit it to watches, number of watches, because that's a defining factor of how long the video will be. So that's why, let's say, with the horror file video, we spoke about some watches very briefly because it was just too many, on the table. Which again I love, but again that would be a 1.5 hour video easily. And also, I think I try to display the watches from the front and back, and also macro shots. And I think in a short video you just cannot squeeze everything in. And also I don't want to interrupt the stories of the watches behind it.
It's true. It's true. Well, please keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, definitely. We have good ones coming. This year, if all goes well, we'll have one or two from the West Coast, from the US, And I also plan doing a few female collector interviews, which again is very rare to see, but people love them, and me as well. So yeah, stay tuned, definitely.
Cool. No, no, no. Well, I will be. Don't worry. And lastly, before we start to wrap up, what advice would you have for someone who's aspiring to have their own YouTube channel for watches?
So I think, with Swiss Watch Gang, let's say the branding was very important in terms of, okay, I focus on high-end watches. I also now with YouTube, I extended this range to more mainstream brands. I think carving out your corporate identity and who you are and what your quality level will be is very important before you start. Consistency is very important. That's why we produce videos in advance in order not to miss out on any week, basically. Also, don't be afraid to try new things. So we always test titles, thumbnails, and also don't be don't be lazy, man. Like if you know if you know that optimizing your YouTube video is um, a lot of work and it's very important, you have to put in the work, because if you create a nice video and nobody sees it, you basically lost this opportunity, to get more viewers, followers, subscribers, whatever. And also I say don't focus that much on the numbers, because your work, your Instagram, your YouTube is a reflection of your brand and who you are. So we were lucky to get sponsors early on, although we have, in my eyes, even on YouTube, a low amount of views. But because the quality is high and the engagement is very high, most of the videos get zero to almost like maybe just a few dislikes, which is very rare. Um, a lot of comments. I interact with everybody on the comments. I never delete a negative comment because I tell to the brand, listen, if somebody bashes your work, go in there and defend yourself and tell them why you think this is not correct, or why you decided to do this size or lugs or whatever. So I would advise to one, consistency. So don't start the YouTube channel before you have at least, let's say, 4 or 5 videos pre-produced, um, because then you have because live just catches up to you and you don't have time to maybe do a video that week, or somebody, you have to be somewhere else. Consistency is key. Engage with your audience. Okay, so answer every comment. If it's good, bad, stupid, funny, answer it. Um, Also get better. Like watch other YouTube videos, titles, video tags, how they optimize, what they talk about, and try to maybe recreate it at the beginning and then carve out your own identity. And also spend money, man. Like you gotta invest before you get back. It's life. It's normal. So me flying to America to do the interview with NYC Watch Guy and Espolux in Boston, in New York, Singapore, Australia, Amr in Zurich, going to the Jacob and Co boutique in New York. That's all self-funded. I spent thousands of dollars hoping for it to come back in the future. So it's just basically how business works. You have to give in order to receive. So and like don't be afraid to just upload consistently, even if you get 100 views. Like I got 200 views in the beginning, in the first week, and the video was high quality from the get-go. But I just knew, okay, listen, you're new at this. It's a new channel. People have to get used to your face, your stupid accent. They have to get used to, they have to get used to, your setup, your recordings, and also listen to the community. Like my videos got better because of my comments. At the beginning, people were saying, hey, Marko, don't show so much of yourself but more of the watches. Okay, I listened, I adapted. Or they said, your top down camera has to go closer to the watch, it's too small on my phone. And I'm like, shit, you're right, it's tiny on the phone. um, so adapting and also just doing the work is almost important. And the golden rule is you're always one content away from becoming famous and rich and independent and whatever. Because one of your videos might go viral, and then in this day and age, this is it. That's all you need. So just never stop. Just push.
Fantastic advice there. And I think
Motivational
even
speech.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. But even for us with the podcast, we started one day we started, and it went from there. And we hit another milestone the other day of downloads, and we'll make
Congratulations.
some announcements soon on what they are. But each week on week, it gets bigger and bigger, and more
Yes,
people listening, and we get feedback, and we try and make it as good as we can. So there's some very great advice in there for YouTube and for us here with the podcast.
exactly.
So
Like I
thank
think,
you.
like the motivational guy Tony Robbins.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
he said something in a way of people overestimate what they can achieve in maybe 5 years, but they underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. So, like, just keep on making this until you get successful. And there's no, like, you just have to create, man, and never stop, and success will come. Like, my uncle says, like, a funny thing always, like, if you make a photo of a fish and upload it to YouTube or, whatever, for 10 years, you will become famous because there is consistency. People will invite you, like, why do you like this fish so much, for example. It's just the way life works these days. Like, consistency gets rewarded. And also, don't be negative, man. Uh, lastly, we had a video removed, not from our YouTube but from somebody else, because he was like basically bashing on the brand and whatever. And I'm like, just make a positive video about the brand. Like, why do you have to downgrade months or years of somebody's work because maybe they wrote a bad comment to you or whatever? Just like negativity is never rewarded.
yeah.
you know
No, it's true.
I think.
Even with Fifth Wrist, what we're trying to achieve is to get the owners of the watches to review their watches, and it's not for them to come on and brand bash and say this watch is shit. It's just to come on and say, hey, I didn't quite realize that this was the case. So if you're interested in this watch, just be aware that there might be some rotor wobble, or there might be the way the watch sits on a flat wrist is not very good because it's quite flat and long at the bottom. So if you've got a flat wrist, don't potentially you might not like this watch. Or just and just be honest. And that's what Fifth Wrist is all about as well, which is great.
That's a good
So
mission, man. I like that a
yeah,
lot.
that's cool. So now you said before, did you want to ask me any questions before we move to the end of the show?
For me, I'm curious to see, because also you collect a few of the, let's say, weirder brands, in quote unquote, with the mainstream collectors. What is the watch you are like hunting down, or like always checking the prices, or what's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, I think I probably blew that because I mentioned it before. So the Moser Pioneer Center Seconds, I think for me, I love what Moser are doing, and I love their ethos and the way that they just try things different. They do things different, and what they do very well. I love the fact that Ed Malan wakes up in the morning and returns customer emails from overnight, and he's so connected on Instagram to his customers and to the customers of Moser, and I think that's what I love. I've got a Habring which I never forget, and I've said it a few times when I picked up the phone and rang the number on the internet website of Habring, and Richard answered the phone, and I was just like, what the fuck?
Awesome, yeah.
And I got to talk to Mark Bernhard from Oxen Junior now, who's taken over the company, and got to speak to him and on the podcast, which was great. And then so for me, it's I think my collecting is going down the route of it has to be independent, and I have to have a connection with the brand, and the connection could be as small as just having a conversation or something with someone from the brand, and then connect on a level with them.
hmm
And I have to like what they're doing as a brand. So I think for me, the Moser I'm always checking for the prices, and they do have some very good pre-owned prices for Moser, which is great and great for someone like me who wants to do that. So I think yeah, the Moser for me. I'm not too sure whether it's going to be the red dial yet, but we'll see. We'll see.
So, but what
All
what
right,
is,
cool. Well, let's yeah. Go.
let's say, what is the, I have a lot of money and I just want to buy this watch because I always dreamt about
Ah,
it. Because the Mosel is in a very, let's say, reachable probably price point. But what's
yeah,
the,
yeah.
okay, this is now, I got it. Let's just do this. The watch. What's the big boy?
The big boy for me. I think. Well, it's really hard because there's so many watches at so many different price points as you go up. But I think honestly, the aesthetic and the movement and the quality of the Roger Smith
Mm,
Series 2,
yes.
for me, it's the pinnacle. It's that checkerboard gear shade dial. It's just the raised purple Roman numerals. Um, yeah, for me, it's just the perfect watch. And yeah, I would love one day, if possible, I'd love to own a Roger Smith because I just think that they are the pinnacle. And Philip Dufour and all, they're there as well. But for me, Roger Smith is just they're just amazing. And I think I would, if I bought one, I would probably stop there
Wow,
because
that's,
I don't know what else. I don't know what else I would want.
you know what you'd want?
So.
A vintage George Daniels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you know what? So no disrespect to George Daniels, but I
Yeah.
think I
Oh, that's
think
coming.
the the updated proportions of the Roger Smiths suit my style a little bit better. I think some of the Daniels watches were a little bit because they were quite big and the subdials were quite small and the hands were quite thin, and it just something there doesn't speak to me as much as the Roger Smith does.
Hmm.
But maybe one of his pocket watches would be nice.
Oof, I had the pleasure of seeing a few in the Bayer Museum in Zurich. They have, I think,
Yeah,
two wristwatches and one pocket watch from George Daniels. It's
yeah.
breathtaking, to say the least.
Amazing, amazing. And don't also, to be honest as well, and then this is another probably a grail watch that I'd like to get one day that is potentially attainable would be the Moser Perpetual Calendar Pioneer.
Mm,
Because I
yeah.
think, and not the one with the double aperture, the one with the pointer for the months in the center hand, because that I think for me is, I'm not a big fan of dress watches because I just don't wear them, even though I'm in finance and if I go to the office I wear a suit. I still prefer a sports watch with a rubber strap because it's always hot in Australia, and I chew through leather straps like there's no tomorrow. So I just don't wear them. I like NATOs because they're comfortable and I can just throw it out when it's no good anymore and get another one for $20.
Yeah.
So yeah, that Moser for me is a very special watch. And in fact, I was thinking the other day that I'm going to make a prediction here. And Ed, if you're listening, when will the grey Fume dial or the smoky dial come out in the Pioneer? Because I reckon that in the next 12, 18 months, maybe 2 years, they will end up having the blue, the green, the red, and the grey dial. And a Vanta Black. If they ever bring out a Vanta Black Pioneer, whoa, that would be cool.
I
But yeah,
the, for me, I'm a fan of the Swiss Alp watch.
yeah,
So
yeah, it's
Vanta
cool.
Black or maybe a few mid dial with that, that would be perfect for me.
Yeah,
So
sounds
Ed,
good to
let us
me.
know.
Yeah, come on, Ed. Come on to the show and let us know when is the grey dial coming out. All right.
Awesome,
Well,
man.
we'll start to wrap up now. I know you're a busy man, but one of the things that we always do is a favorite review from Fifth Wrist, and I'm going to get in front of some of my friends on other podcasts because this one just dropped today. and it's of a very good friend of ours, friend of the podcast, and in fact, he was one of the co-hosts that interviewed Max Buser a couple of weeks ago. So JP Melbs, people that listen will know who he is. But it's his review of his VC Overseas, the perfect Holy Trinity sports watch. And I'm going to say a couple of things about it, but I really just want to read the first little section of it because it's just such a cool watch. You know how much this guy loves this watch. So it says, I still remember that day, November 28th, 2018. Australian summer was just around the corner, and I noticed a spring in my step as I made my way to Crown Park and to Monards, to Crown Car Park, sorry. One of the most prestigious watch dealers in Melbourne. It was finally time to try on one of my Grail watches, the Vacheron Constantin Overseas. As a watch guy, you do your research, you learn everything there is to know about the watch that you want, read every article, watch every YouTube video, listen to every podcast. You know the watch inside and out, the dimensions, the movement, the specs, the history. I still wasn't prepared for what I felt that day. As soon as I put it on my wrist, I was hooked. So I'll leave the rest of that for people to go read themselves. But
Jesus, that's emotional. I love it.
isn't it? Like I read it today when it just came out not too long ago, and I was just like, wow. I know how much he worked for this watch and to get it and sacrifice. So amazing. But again, with the pros and cons he's got here, the additional straps you get with that quick release. I mean, how good is that? Seriously.
Perfect.
And but interestingly, and I do give him shit about this sometimes, that yes, it does not have hacking seconds,
Whatever.
but a noisy rotor. I wouldn't have expected that from a Vacheron with an in-house the 4500. But yeah, it's a little bit there. It doesn't bother me. I couldn't care less about rotor. I like hearing my watches. I like the fact that you can hear the mechanics in them. But yeah, fantastic review. So please, do you like the watch?
Yes, yes. I'm a big fan of Vacheron as well. So I think the overseas, the new ones as well as the old ones, which have a bit more edgier character, I'm a fan of, man. I used to have a Vacheron, but it was I had a Patrimony reference 85-180 with the date window, yellow gold. The quality is great. Nothing to basically bash there.
No. I love VC. I hope one day that I mean I'd love the Comte de Vache. It's been one of my favorite watches for such a long time. It's just so beautiful.
Oh, what's the last quick question before I gotta hop off? What's your favorite Vacheron? Let's say apart from maybe the Corne de Vache, or maybe it is the Corne de Vache.
No, look, I think the Comte de Vache is probably up there, but I do love the second generation overseas chronograph. In the white dial. I think the white dial is really really nice. So again, you can change the straps, not with the quick release, but you can still put it on a rubber. And yeah, I think they're a fantastic watch.
Awesome.
What about you? What's yours?
Oof, forever. And I'm talking about last, since I started thinking about watches, I wanted to own a American 1921 Vacheron with the cushion shape, the driver's watch. Um, I'm a bit torn between the platinum version because I prefer white gold to yellow gold or rose gold. But dial wise, my favorite would be the New York edition of it because it has these avant garde art deco, sorry, numerals and heart shaped hands. So, and also on the vintage side, I would get a Mercator from Vacheron. I think those big retrograde hands. I mean, come on, how can you say no to that?
I think if I ever bought a Vacheron, it would probably be an ultra thin dress watch, platinum,
Mm,
two hander, no seconds hand, just
wow,
simple, just very elegant, but really thin and platinum. I think that's where
Oof,
I would probably go.
that's awesome, man.
All right, I know you need to go, but we've got to do one more thing, and that is a recommendation for someone to go follow on Instagram. So while you're thinking of that, I'll go first. So mine today is watching horology, as it's spelt, no spaces, no dots. So he's a horolographer. He says the horolographer.
Yeah,
Harry Tan is his name. He takes some amazing photos, and he does those photos where they take up sort of nine pictures, and it's all the one photo. But he's got a beautiful Vianney Halter, some Gronefeld, some Breguet, and yeah, just a really cool Instagram page that I think people will like. So, watching horology.
Oh, it is. I just see it now. Those big like shots are awesome, huh?
Yeah, he's
And
done a really good job, and he's got 900, nearly 1,000 photos. So there's a lot to go back through and have a look and see what he likes. So yeah, worth going to follow anyway. And what about yourself, Marco?
for me, like somebody I often see a watch I didn't know exists, or it's a bit more rare, is IG Watch Lover. So he's a collector of independent watch brands. So IG Watch Lover, nothing else, no underscores or dots. You can see Bexay watches there. You can see Kari watches, Voutilainen. Again, just somebody who you might follow and see watches you maybe didn't even know exist, or the versions of them.
That's cool. I wasn't following him, so yeah, I'll give him a follow now.
He's
Great.
an OG with almost 2,000 posts, so he's been around for a while.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. All right, Marco. Well, I can't thank you enough. I've been a big fan of your channel, and I've loved watching your videos. So please keep them coming, as I'm sure they will. But thank you for taking the time out to do your first cherry popping podcast. How was it for you?
It was less painful than I expected.
Ah, good, good, good,
But you
good.
were also very gentle, so it's good. No, and I
Ah,
appreciate your time as well, Anthony, and definitely a
no,
fan of the podcast. And again, keep it going, and don't stop
thank
ever.
you. No, we will. We will. We're having too much fun to stop. So we've got some fantastic people lined up, and we can't thank the people that we've spoken to date because it's just been amazing. So, all right, well, everyone, please make sure you go follow Swiss Watch Gang on Instagram if you're not already, which probably a lot of you are. But also head over to YouTube and have a look at some of the fantastic collector um, interviews that Marco's done, but also some of the reviews on watches that we can only ever dream about. So yeah, and head over to Fifth Wrist as well and review one of your watches. It's a lot of fun, and you never know, you might be one of our favorite reviews of the week. So thank you. I'm Anthony from Defining Time. Thank you again, Marco. It was an absolute pleasure and a lot of fun.
Same here,
So
Anthony.
cool.
Thank you so much. Have a good weekend
All
ahead,
right.
huh?
You too. For everyone else, stay on time.